And welcome to our webinar today, which is Strategies to Digitally Transform Your Business. And I'm really excited to be here with my co-hosts, Brooke B, Sellas and John Ferrara. But before we get started, I just thought I'd take a moment just to quickly introduce myself and let you know who I am and why I feel it's so important that we come together today to discuss about how to digitally transform our businesses, because we live in a really digital age, and it's really important that we're able to use and harness the power of technology to be able to help us to be able to reach the potential of our business. And my background is I run the Social Media Marketing Institute, and it's something that I was really passionate about because I saw a lot of people in the social media space who, the social media space is so fast moving, and I wanted to be able to help connect everybody in the social media space and to be able to help educate them, celebrate social media marketers and be able to showcase all the great work that is done in the social media space. And with that, that's why I decided to put together the Social Media Marketing Institute to help with this process. And one of the things that I'm really excited about with the Social Media Marketing Institute is we get to celebrate social media marketers and do that through the Social Media Marketing Awards, which we're currently in process with. And part of the Social Media Marketing Awards is we really look to help show people what's being done out there in the social media space and be able to recognize and really document all the great practices that are being done. The other thing we do in the Social Media Marketing Institute is we educate, and that's actually how I came to be connected with John. It's through the LinkedIn Experts Marketing Summit. And what I did is I was talking with a lot of people out there in the social media space, particularly in the LinkedIn space, and people were wanting to know how they could best use LinkedIn to be able to not only connect with people, but how they can use it to grow their business and to be able to sell what they have. And as I was putting together all the experts, I was having a chat with one of my experts, Joe Saunders, and we were talking about how vital it is and how important it is for you with your social media to be able to capture those people that you're connected with on social media and bring it into your own business, into your own CRM. Because as we know, when it comes to social media, we are actually using rented property. And we've seen that a little while back when Facebook went down and people panicked over a 24-hour period because a lot of people had then lost the connections with the people that they do business with. And it really highlighted to me the importance of not only using your social media to connect with people, but then connect with people and bring them into your own space, into your own business through a CRM. And as I was speaking with Jo, she said, well, you've got to talk to John. John Ferrara is the legend when it comes to CRMs, and you need to have him as a part of your LinkedIn Experts Marketing Summit. And that was run a couple of months ago, and John just delivered so much great content about why it's so important to connect your social media to your CRM. And the thing that I love about Nimble, and I use Nimble, I love it, is that one of the things I found really challenging when it came to the social media connection with a CRM, it's really hard to sort of, it takes a lot of effort and work to be able to bring people into your CRM system. And, there's ways we can do that, obviously through, different types of lead magnets and opportunities. But the thing that I love about Nimble is that it just is so interconnected with your social media. And so for me, running the Social Media Marketing Institute, it's just been so awesome to be able to be able to connect with Nimble and John to be able to learn how I can bring all my social media connections. And I've got a lot of connections. I've got over 100,000 connections on social media. And for me, I realized, particularly when we have these instances when social media platforms go down, that I haven't got as many of them into my own system as I need to be. So this has been a really big eye-opener to me about the importance of bringing my social media connections into my own CRM. And the other thing that I also think is really, really important is that one of the jobs that I do have, and I'm sure a lot of you as business owners and small business solopreneurs also have, is that you are a bit of a connector when it comes to what you do. And there's so many things that I find are in my head, so many bits of information about the different people that I connect with. And I find that there's only a few people that I can constantly keep in my mind. So I find it really important to be able to manage all the information that I'm receiving from my different people, the people I do business with, the people that I connect with, and I connect people one to another. So it's really important for me to keep track of all this information. So again, I'm sure you feel the same way. We're just overwhelmed with so much information and so many people. I think it's important that we are able to look at how we can manage that information, remember it, and then be able to follow it up. And so again, for me, and particularly with running big events like the Social Media Marketing Awards, where I'm having lots of people come in, enter the awards, connect, sponsors, all different types of people, it's really important that I'm able to bring all that information together. So for me, having a really robust CRM is really an important part of the digital transformation of my business. And over the last several months, I've been really building that and using Nimble to be able to help me to do that. So that's why I felt it was so important today to be able to come together, to be able to chat with Brooke and John, to look at how we as business owners are able to share, and be able to learn about how we can best use a CRM to help us to be able to build our business, to take pressure off us, and to be able to help us to be able to reach our potential in business. And so I would really like to start by introducing John Ferrara. John has become a great friend and mentor for me, and has taught me so many things when it comes to relationship management. So John, take it away.
Thank you, Mireille. I really appreciate you bringing your audience together with us for this conversation about how to digitally transform your business. And what's funny is that a lot of the things that we've been putting into practice to build Nimble are not indifferent than how we built Goldmine. And really, it's about relationships and storytelling and getting other people to tell your stories. But in this sort of revolution of social and the ways that we work, play, buy, and sell, I think we need to all rethink that the tools and techniques that we use to do that, whether we're solopreneurs or part of a larger team. And I don't think I have to tell you that the world's rapidly changing around us, and that if you're not standing out from the competition, you're dead today. And I don't know if they have anything like Blockbuster in Australia, but that used to be the place where we rented our videos, and it just doesn't exist anymore. The Barnes and Noble in my neighborhood doesn't exist anymore. And so you really need to change with the times to stand out from the competition. And this is a funnel, a sales funnel that was created in the 1800s by the French. And I think it's extinct. I think that for you to stay top of mind as a trusted advisor with your customers, that you need to be doing it differently. And I think that the way that you do it differently today is you have to be top of mind with your customers on a daily basis. How do you do that? I think you do that by establishing yourself as a trusted advisor. And on this webinar, we have a gentleman named Mike Wittenstein, and Mike is part of a company that's called Story Miners, and he does just that. And we'll talk about how Mike does that during the demo. But ultimately, through the cycle of your customers' buying decisions, as well as when they do their loyalty loop, where ideally they come back and buy from you again and drag your friends with them, how do you stay top of mind with them? I think what you need to do is you need to build influence and with them. But the tools that we use to do that, I think, are not really effective. I think today contact management is broken in businesses because your contacts are in too many different places. The most people here today are using Office 365. Some of them are using G Suite. Some of them are using IMAP and iCloud. But ultimately, your contacts aren't connected to the conversations you're having in email and social, or the activities you're driving in your calendar, or the business apps you're using, which are all islands of contacts. And I think that it's hard to engage effectively, and that a lot of our time is wasted and we're not working effectively as a team. And my dad always told me that teams that play together win games. And so that's what we do with Nimble, is we unify all those disparate contacts. And this diagram, I think, really says it best. Is it illustrates why I think there's 225 million global businesses and less than 1% use any CRM. It's because you have to work for the CRM and you have to go to it to use it. And that most of us live in inbox and spreadsheets and social, and that your contacts are siloed in sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting. And every team member is a separate contact database in G Suite and Office. And Nimble basically pulls all that together. And what I think I love about what Nimble does is it gives you this dashboard that unifies all your signals and helps you start your day as a team centered on relationships. Most CRMs are centered on reporting, and they're not centered on empowering customer-facing business team members. And I think that's what we need to do today, is we need to have a common record of relationships in a business that everybody, not just sales, is using as a record to review whenever you engage with that person, who they are, what their business is about, the history of interactions that you and the team have had on email, calendar, and social, and then have the ability to follow up and follow through. Now, I'm going to pause because I forgot to do something. I forgot to ask you to ask questions. We learn from questions, and we're going to compile all those questions and answer them throughout the webinar, and compile the ones that are applicable to everybody and answer them at the end. So please ask questions. I'm going to be giving away a free gift to a random person that asks questions. So be sure that you do that. So the heart of Nimble is the contacts. That's people buy from people they like, know, and trust. For you to build a relationship with somebody, you need to know who they are and what their business is about. Traditionally, we did that by going in somebody's office and looking at the walls to find our commonalities, to share that, to develop intimacy and trust. Today, we're doing electronically, and it's just too hard to Google somebody before a meeting. And inevitably, you just go to their LinkedIn resume, which is basically like walking to my business lobby. If you want to know John Ferrara, you need to walk in my digital footprint across Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, where you'll learn about the real me, where you can share your commonalities, where we can develop intimacy and trust and find ways to add value to each other. And the thing I love about what Nimble does, it's not just that the first CRM that automatically works for you by building itself from the disparate contacts that you have distributed around yourself and your business, but then it works back where you work, right where you're engaging, because inevitably every email I get, there usually is a follow-up that I need to do, and I don't always do it because I don't have the tool there to log the note and schedule a task. And Nimble not only is there to do that, but also to give you the context and insights you need to know the history of interactions, which helps you to respond more effectively. It also works inside of your calendar. It works inside your contacts. It works inside of Outlook Mobile and Outlook Desktop, and also it works inside of G Suite. But then the thing I love about it, it works back in the business apps that you're engaging in, and every business has something. They might have MailChimp or QuickBooks or Xero, or maybe even another CRM. It doesn't matter if you're using another CRM like Brian Clark using Agile. Nimble works with it because we bidirectionally synchronize with hundreds of SaaS business apps, including Agile CRM and Dynamics and Salesforce. And then we work back in the places that you're working, and we give the tools you're using a team relationship manager for everybody to be on one page in your team. And it also works for prospecting, because ultimately I think that it's not just salespeople that need to worry about their brand and their network. Every person needs to worry about their brand and their network, because your network is your net worth, and you're going to get hired for your brand and your network at your next job. And so you should work on prospecting smartly every day, and then nurturing that network on a regular basis. But you can't do it by yourself, because it's a Dunbar limit that says that there's only 100 to 200 people that you can manage in your head at one time, and there are thousands of connections that most people have. And so that's why Nimble works for you by building itself and works with you everywhere. One of the things I love is how we can prospect contacts from Nimble, from mobile iOS, like LinkedIn, I can actually build contacts directly from Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn apps, and I'll show you that later. Like I said, we also work within other CRMs. And the key thing that we do is we unify your email, contact calendar, and like I said, hundreds of SaaS business apps. I think it's one of the reasons why we've been ranked so highly for the past 7 years as not just one of the market leaders in CRM, but also in sales intelligence and sales enablement email tracking, because you need more than a CRM to arm your business team. You need intelligence on people and company, and you need templated emails with tracking in order to outreach at scale. And so we're really proud of what we've built, but it's more powerful when somebody else talks about you than when you talk about you. So what I'd love to do is I'd love to bring on Brooke Sellas. She's the CEO of B Squared Media. What I love about Brooke is that she started as a solopreneur by herself. She built a digital marketing agency through storytelling, and she's evolved that agency now where she's doing things differently, and she's going to tell you about that. But what I also love is she's now starting to build her brand in order to build the company brand, and she'll also talk about that as well. So with that, let me go ahead and bring on Brooke here with you today for you to share your story and your journey about how you've built not only your agency, B Squared, but also your brand into a global thought leader in marketing. So for the people who don't know you, let me talk a little bit about you. This is your life. So Brooke, you're the CEO and founder of B Squared Media, an award-winning done-for-you social media management and advertising agency. But what I'm really excited about is how you're transitioning from not just being an agency serving your local businesses that you serve, but you're starting to really stand out as a teacher and preacher in marketing. And with this recent joint venture you're doing with Mark Schaefer, where you're the co-host of Marketing Companion podcast, I really believe that you're going to get a brand new audience that you can help serve and grow. And I love your mantra: think conversation, not campaign, to be sure. And that really is really about the heart of really our vision here at Nimble. And so say hello to the audience.
Hi, audience. Thanks for having me.
And so we're going to do this interview style where we're going to talk a little bit about who you are and where you're at and where you're going, so that people can learn from your journey of building your brand and agency, et cetera. So let's start with telling us a little bit about yourself, how and why you started your agency, B Squared Media.
So we just turned 7 actually in this month in May, and we started out as a social media strategy company, but we had to pivot very early on, because what we found with our very first client, and by we, I mean, it was me, it was just me at the time, was that it wasn't so much about giving them the strategy to help them do their social. It was more about the implementation. So we worked with them to create this wonderful thing, and then we handed it to them, and they were like, no, and they handed it back. And for me, that was a real eye-opener, because what I started to understand, was that it wasn't always about the strategy, it was more about doing it. And I also saw that as an opportunity, because there were plenty of other people who were offering consulting for social or digital media or strategy, but not a lot of people were going in and actually doing it. So I pivoted very quickly. We became a done-for-you social media management company. So we actually usually don't help with the strategy. The strategy is already there, or it's a continuation of a strategy that's already been in place but maybe hasn't been working. And we actually do the work for the client. We are just like the worker bees who create the content, manage the community, do all of the analytics and reporting, do any of the paid media, and we're doing it 7 days a week, 365 days a year, holidays included, which many companies can't do. So that's really where we shine, is in being the worker bee.
I love that, and that's why you call it the done for you social media management company. And I think that's so true, that most companies you're going to consult with are too busy doing whatever it took to get in business, to stay in business, for them to be able to step outside their business and look at new ways to build their brand and drive eyeballs, and then actually go do that stuff. And so you do that for them. How many people in your company today, and what are their roles?
We have a team of 15, and they are all basically account managers or account coordinators in their own way. They have their own projects and the hours within those projects that they work on. And we have one operations manager who kind of helps me with ops. And then we have me, who basically does all of those things, and I'm responsible for all of the sales for the company as well.
Okay, so each of these account managers work with a particular company or set of companies, and they facilitate the processes that you do for them. So they might do some of the media buying, they might do some of the social sharing. Each one of them are individual operators that manage those people.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a balancing act, because everything we do is very different for every client, because every client has different needs that need to be filled or KPIs that need to be met. So, I look for highly skilled workers in the digital media or social space or in the advertising space who have had experience managing multiple accounts, because we're not just dealing with one person or one client, we're dealing with lots of different people, lots of different clients, lots of different industries. So, I mean, we're looking for A, that worker, B, they have to like to work because it is a lot of work, and B, they have to be able to juggle, those different industries, different personalities, different clients. So I'm looking for a worker bee who can also juggle.
Okay. And one of the next questions I was going to ask you is, how did you grow your business to where it is today? But I think I could even answer that for you. I think that you started by doing it yourself. You figured out, you thought you were going to give people plans. It turns out you actually had to do the work for them. You learned how to do that work for them, and then you hired net new people to basically do exactly what you were doing by yourself, but now you're selling other people's time and they're doing it, and you're really driving net new business in, and then working with those team members on their individual things with their customers.
You're so smart. That's exactly right. I basically formulated all of these standard operating procedures or SOPs around all of the standard work that we did. And when you create procedures and processes for your business and workflows, as long as they're repeatable, you can very easily pass them to someone else. And so that was one of the smartest things I did, because, I can pass on the checklist of here's the things you do when you onboard someone. Here's the things that you do when you give a report. Here are the things that you do when you add a Facebook page. Whatever it may be, we have those processes built out around all of the things that we do. So when we bring on new people, it's just about knowing that they can A, be a worker, B, juggle, and then C, I guess, check off those boxes. So it's very easy. It's a very paint by numbers situation as far as tasks go.
Got it. And then tell us about your customers. Is there a unique size industry that you serve, or are they kind of varied?
Very, very varied. So we mainly work with middle-sized to larger enterprise-sized companies at this point. When I started, we're talking very small, and then slowly but surely, as we built and as the brand name built, we were able to secure larger and bigger clients and bigger contracts. But just over time it happened, and we went from small to medium to larger, and then industry-wise it runs the gamut. We work with realtors, staffing agencies, healthcare companies, other media companies, other marketing companies. You name it, we do it.
Okay. And so we all talk about brand and network and how important they are. How important is building your personal brand as a business owner?
It's everything. I've always, because our tagline is think conversation, not campaign, I've always kind of put that relationship first. And I come from a nonprofit background as well, so I think it helped me to be the business owner that I am today, which in the nonprofit world, which I still treat my for-profit business the same way. Your network is your net worth, is what we always would say. So, I mean, I treat it the same way. So I'm constantly using Nimble to keep those little touch points happening, because I think where a lot of salespeople in for-profit companies get it wrong, and they can actually take a page from the nonprofit world, is that in the nonprofit world, you're constantly making those little connections all throughout the year. It's not when you need something. It's not when there's a problem. And it's constantly saying like, hey, I saw this article and I thought you could help it. You know, you read it because you said you needed help with XYZ, or I want you to meet my friend John at Nimble because you said you were looking for a CRM solution and I really want you to talk to him, or whatever those little like helpful things you can do are, even if it's an article or introducing someone to someone, which doesn't seem big. Over time, you build up those relationship points. And when it comes time for that person to do business with someone, especially if it's in your realm, they're going to think of you first.
Yeah, and that's really all about becoming top of mind as a trusted advisor to your prospects and customers, and ideally their influencers as well, which I think you're really evolving to become one of those now that you have built that personal brand. And that then gets us to the how does your personal brand help the company get more business? And can you share an example?
Yeah, well, a great example is Mark Schaefer. Mark and I met almost in the very beginning, I would say like probably 5 or 6 years ago. And we met because Mark is very personable and it has a big personal brand. And
Can you
I'm
tell
sure
us who Mark Schaefer is for people who don't know?
if you don't know who Mark Schaefer is, do yourself a favor, go look him up. Businesses with an ES, grow.com. He's written 7 major books, marketing books. He has an amazing blog that a lot of people read. He's got the Marketing Companion podcast, which I'm now a part of, but he had for 6 years before I even came on board. So he's just a real force in the marketing community. He teaches at Rutgers. He speaks globally. So a real person to know in our world. And he's very, I call him the Mr. Rogers of marketing. He's like the actual nicest marketer out there. He's very authentic. And he put a message out on his Facebook page that said like, hey, New Yorkers, I'm coming to New York. Let's meet up for a drink. And I didn't get to go meet him that time, which I guess in a way was good, which I was kicking myself. In a way it was good because I didn't get to go meet him. And I was so like upset that I had missed my chance to meet him in person. The next time he was in New York, he invited me to lunch. We had lunch together and he said he'd been reading my blog, which I was like blown away by. And he asked if I would write a blog post for him, which of course I said yes. So, you know, one thing led to another, these little small asks, little small connections. He then asked me, you know, to help give him a quote for one of his books. And then we did some book work together on his next book. And then he started sending me clients. And it's just these little touches over the years that, you know, have led to this big relationship that Mark and I have now. And, you know, that's an extreme example, but I feel like that any of the clients who I work with or any of the friends who I have, like you, John, at Nimble, I can tell very similar stories. It was all of these little touch points along the way that I made sure to keep on top of. It's not like regular follow-up. It's like authentic follow-up, let's call it.
Yeah.
And that's where everything came from.
So I think, Brooke, what you just shared with us is that your personal brand helped you to build a connection with somebody that is driving business into you, but now more importantly, helping to raise your brand. So you're now becoming a global brand, which will help get you even net new business. And so the value of personal brand to building the company brand is so critically important. And I think it's not just you building your brand as a business owner, but you need to empower your team members to build their brand in order to humanize and build the company brand. And so I'm sure that you do that as well. So the next question is, how did you manage your agency before implementing Nimble? What tools did you try and use before, and what issues were you running into?
I had all the tools and all the issues. So we had went through a slew of different things. We had tried Google Suite, we had tried Zoho, we had tried, oh gosh, we had everything. I mean, you name it, we've tried it. I tried, you know, some, I forget what the email service is called now. That was an active campaign. But anyways, long story short, we had a lot of different tools. And I came across Nimble through my network. because a lot of people who I admire and who I'm friends with in the social space use Nimble. And so I kept seeing that name pop up. So I thought, let me do the free trial, which I tested out. And during the free trial, obviously I had a lot of questions. I'm a question asker. I'm one of those people who like, I was constantly raising their hand. And you guys were so great. The customer service was on top of it. They answered all of my questions thoroughly. They answered all of my questions with a smile. It just felt right. You know, it was like that authenticness was there and it just felt right. And we ended up using Nimble. And now, I mean, I couldn't imagine not using Nimble. It's a lifesaver. And it's replaced all of those other tools that we had to kind of piecemeal together.
You know, if I unpack what you just shared so eloquently, you discovered Nimble not through advertising, but through word of mouth and from people you trust and that are in your industry. And then when you went to try it, the experience matched the promises that were made. And a lot of that was human connections that connected with you to answer questions from our success team. And eventually you brought it in and started to use it. And so I understand what you used before and how you ended up using Nimble. What problems were you able to solve after implementing Nimble?
Gosh, I mean, efficiency is a big thing for us. You know, we are a small team servicing, you know, not a huge number of clients, but when you think that there's only 15 of us, there's a lot that we get done on a daily basis. And the fact that all of the relationship management and sales sits on my plate means I have even more to do. And so to be able to go inside of one tool and efficiently use that tool to help me be more efficient and also to help me kind of from a sales perspective forecast where I was, where I am, and where I'm going is priceless. To be able to again manage sales, but manage them in a human way. As I was saying earlier, I use like the keep in touch and star feature to make sure that those little touch points are always happening so that I'm always top of mind with the people I need to be top of mind with.
So it sounds like you used to use a collection of tools for managing your business processes at the company. And so you might have had Gmail, G Suite for email, contact, and calendar, and maybe a MailChimp or some other marketing tool that captures leads and nurtures them. You might have an accounting program. Which one do you use? QuickBooks?
QuickBooks Online.
You're using QuickBooks for accounting, and you really didn't have a central place for your contacts. And what you did is you brought Nimble in to unify all of those disparate contacts and then link it back to all the places that you work inside your inbox, inside your accounting, inside your marketing, and then probably for engagement too, because you're all about your branding, your network. And when you engage with people, I assume you engage with them in Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, etc. Do you use Nimble for prospecting?
I do. I use Nimble for prospecting, and I should say that we switched to Office 365 with Microsoft, and Nimble integrates so wonderfully with Office 365 that also just kind of like blossomed as we made these changes. But yeah, so Nimble has this I say cute, but you know, handy, efficient, whatever you want to call it, Chrome button that I use, and I can go onto a prospect's website, hit that little Chrome button, and it kind of builds the smart profile for me. I can hit save, it populates into Nimble. If I have any contacts there, I can add those contacts in, and I've already got that information kind of happening. So then when I email those prospects or we're having conversations, because I've connected Office 365, all of those emails kind of go inside of Nimble into that contact. It's all kept in one place. Any sort of deals that I create get kept in one place. It's just really organized. And I think, you know, I jokingly say this, but it really is the truth. The only reason I'm in business 7 years later is because I'm highly organized, and Nimble helps me be one of those highly organized people. So, I mean, it really helps me do my job in a way that makes sense with the way I work, but also makes sense in our socially connected world.
Mm-hmm. Brooke, you have a beautiful mind, and I can see that in the way that you think things through and the structures you build around yourselves. That helps people to succeed and grow at scale, is because you see problems, you synthesize solutions, you build processes around it, and then you build great teams and you empower them to succeed. And I love the fact that you use Nimble at the heart of that system to manage relationships and to do the engagements. And so one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is your sales processes, and also to let you know that because you're using Office 365, Nimble has a plugin for Office 365 now, and then it goes in your email, but it also works in your calendar as well and in the contacts, in case you didn't know. But we're now Azure-based platform. I don't know if you know it, Microsoft signed a reseller agreement with Nimble. They're globally reselling Nimble with Office 365 through all their resellers and distributors.
Wow.
And we're embedding Power BI into Nimble, which means you'll be able to build net new dashboards for reporting and visualization on your pipeline and your contacts and your marketing, et cetera. And so I'd love to collaborate with you as we build out that integration and dashboard. So let's make sure we do that.
Yes.
So how important would you say is it in segmenting your database for communication and outreach? And do you use Nimble for any of that?
Yes and yes. I think, here's another nonprofit to for-profit example. In nonprofit, you have you start with segments, and I feel like in for-profit, we come up with segments later as needed. And I think it's so important to understand and identify and work through those segments first. So inside of Nimble, what I've done to help me is you can customize the back end, obviously. So I can kind of say where leads have come from and understand who's filtering me, those leads, whether it's Mark or other agencies or a conference that I attended. So that's great. But also Nimble has these tagging features where you can segment people based on very specific tags. And I love that because, for instance, John and I just got to see each other back in March in San Diego at Social Media Marketing World. And I could take all of the business cards that I collected at Social Media Marketing World, run them through Nimble's mobile card scanner, and then add the tag SMMW19 so that I know that all of those people that got uploaded and tagged were from that event, and then they're added into Nimble from that event. And then any further correspondence that I've had or business that I've gotten, we're actually going to hire someone who has that tag inside of Nimble for our company, but I met her at Social Media Marketing. I know where it came from. I mean, it just helped. Again, it just goes back to that efficiency and organize, which I know, maybe that's boring to some people, but I think when you have that kind of clarity in your business to understand where team members or sales or any kind of relationship, where they're coming from, it really just helps you understand where to spend your time and your money and your energy, which is everything.
So it sounds like you use Nimble for more than prospects and customers, that you also use it for the entire community around your business. Mm-hmm. And at Nimble, our community includes editors, analysts, bloggers, influencers, third-party developers, investors, advisors, and prospects and customers. And you have a not dissimilar constituency, but it sounds like you use it for engagement to recruit new team members. You use it to recruit new storytellers that you tell stories with, like Mark. You probably use it to connect with net new influencers. And I'll tell you a little story about what we did before we went to Social Media Marketing World. What we did is we imported the Twitter list of the past 5 years speakers and influencers from the previous year's attendees, and then we enriched those with people and company data, including their emails, and began to walk in the digital footprints of those thought leaders before we got to the conference, so that when we're at the conference, people actually knew who we were and they reached out to us. And I think that you need to prepare before you go to any conference, and we use Nimble to actually to do that. And that gets us to influencer marketing, because ultimately, I think it's more powerful when other people talk about you than when you talk about you. And I'm sure that you practice influencer marketing yourself. Can you tell us a story about how you practice influencer marketing?
Yeah, we don't offer it as a service within the company, but it's such a part of what we do. It's just kind of baked into what we do. And what I share this viewpoint with Mark. We actually had this conversation on a recent recording of the podcast. But I think a lot of people get it wrong when they say influencer. because the people who are an influencer to me are maybe not the same people who are an influencer to you. Kim K could not get me to buy anything to save my life. So she may be an influencer. I think there's something that came out recently that said she makes like $500,000 or $1 million per Instagram post or something. That's wonderful. And she must be an influencer to a lot of people, but not me. I watch all the Bravo Housewives shows. They all have, they're all influencers and they all sell things. I wouldn't buy anything from them to save my life, even though I love those shows. The influencers for me are those people who do what I do, or people who are my neighbors, or, people in my actual life, whether it be in real life or online, because again, some of these digital people who use Nimble, I have never met, but I trust them. I trust that personal brand. So they were influencers to me. So I think everyone's an influencer, I think is what I'm trying to say. And I think if we can realize that as companies and as people, and treat every person as if they were an influencer, A, the world would be a better place, but B, we would do better in business, because you never know who that influencer is going to be for your next customer or team member or vendor or whomever it may be.
Well, I think what you're saying is that it's not just the Kim Kardashians that are influencers, that any business person listening to this today has prospects and customers, and they have influencers themselves. Mm-hmm. So if I'm selling to a small business, the influencer of the small business might be their attorney, might be their tax accountant, it might be their technology installer advisor, it might be their marketing consultant, might be their sales consultant. And so ultimately, influencer marketing can be applied by anyone, not just brands that want to get Kim Kardashian to recommend their soap or cosmetics or whatever
or whatever it is. Yeah.
They do, right? And so influencer marketing has been practiced since the beginning of time. There's actually a story about Defender Milk, which was a powdered milk company in New Zealand that was trying to get their story told and compete in a crowded marketplace. And they started to get letters from moms asking them about how to feed the babies with this powdered milk. And they collected all the letters and they started publishing those into like a monthly periodical. And they eventually became a book that outsold the Bible. And so they gave away knowledge, and they basically built the brand by just sharing content, which was questions from moms about how to use the milk to feed the babies. And that company, Defender Milk, became Glaxo Wellcome, which is one of the largest drug companies in the world. And that was the 1800s. So influencer marketing has been with us for quite some time. So one final question that I was just curious is, you are an agency that does things for people. So the people aren't typically doing it for themselves. But have you ever recommended Nimble to any of your customers? And are they using it? And how are they using it if they are?
I have. In fact, the most recent person I talked with about using Nimble wasn't a customer, but she is a cohort, I guess you could say. She owns a consulting business. Yvonne Herman, or Evie as we call her.
I know Evie.
Yes. So I had recommended Nimble to her, and she got in there and started playing around, and she reached out and said, hey, I have a question. You were talking about pipelines and some of your sales processes, and it sounded so wonderful, but then I got in here and I like have analysis paralysis. So I was like, tell me when you have 30 minutes. Let's jump on a GoToMeeting. I'll show you my screen. I'll literally like pull back the curtain, the wizard's curtain, and show you how I set everything up. And I walked her through it, and she was like, thank you so much. The visual just wasn't there for her, and she just wanted me to go through and kind of give her that visual. And I did, and I think she's so happy. She sent me a sweet little note. It's on my Instagram page. It was all about like kind of giving her that 30-minute walkthrough. But again, these are the little touch points that I'm talking about. Not only am I helping you, but I helped Evie, and at some point I know that she'll come back and help me with something. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah. Well, that's really what life's about, Brooke. I think it really is about the relationships that we create, and relationships, I think, and our purpose in life is really about helping other people grow. And the more people you help grow, the more you will grow, which is what Zig Ziglar taught 100 years ago. But it's so true, right? And I think that social media is increasing the transparency and also the expectations of we have from each other, from the businesses that we do business with, and that we're going through a renaissance in relationships. And I'm just so excited about it because we're moving away from sales as a four-letter word to service as the new sales. And I love the fact that you were able to share so beautifully how you built not only this global agency, it really is global now. I'm sure you deal with people outside of your city and probably even the country, but that you did it through storytelling and relationships. And Brooke, I see amazing things in your future where you're going to be able to teach and preach globally, and you will evolve into an author and a speaker on stage, which you already are, but I'm talking about books like Mark does, where one day there will be people like you who come to you and say, Brooke, I want to have lunch with you, and you're going to have lunch with people, and you're going to have grow those people. And I love the natural evolution of life. And so, Brooke, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to see where we go.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
So that was fantastic to listen to Brooke about how she is using Nimble to grow her business. What I'd like to do is I'd like to walk you through my screen and walk through some of the key ways that that people can use Nimble to grow. Some of the key things that I want you to remember in regards to Nimble is the setup. And I think that there were some questions earlier about, is Nimble easy to set up and connect all your various things. So when you onboard into Nimble, it's going to take you into the settings page, and in there you then connect all your disparate platforms. So you can go ahead and connect in your email and your calendar and your contacts, but you could also then connect in hundreds of your SaaS business apps, which means that you can synchronize in your QuickBooks, etc., and then also your social contacts as well. Once you put contacts into Nimble, Nimble will automatically map the identity on people and company, bring down the data, build a digital dossier that tells you who they are, where they work, where they're from, what they're influential in. These are all auto tags that you could use for segmentation. We synchronize every interaction that you and the team have on email, calendar, and social. And of course, we have all the basics things that you think you need in a CRM, like the ability to forecast deals and run reports on them. But some of the things I really love is the Today page that essentially gives you that dashboard for where you start and in your day. But one of the other things I love about Nimble is the ability to segment contacts and outreach to them. And so when you put a contact into Nimble, like I said, it segments them, it enriches them with people and company data, which you can then use for segmentation, which is how we basically outreach to prepare for a conference recently. So I imported a Twitter list from a previous year's speakers and influencers. I then segmented out of the 3,500, 200 that were influential in sales and marketing. I sent them this simple email outreach, which Nimble sends emails from your email to their email, but it feels like a one-to-one, even though it's one-to-many. I got a 50% open rate, scheduled 25 meetings, and that's all done with our segmentation and group messaging. The other thing that I really love about Nimble is the fact that it works with you wherever you're working. So make sure you plug in the browser plugins in Chrome and Safari. If you plug it into Chrome, Nimble automatically sits inside of your G Suite system, and it also sits inside of your browser. So if I'm looking at a contact, I could easily build a record or bring up a record for that person. And by the way, Nimble will automatically give you somebody's contact info. If you give Nimble first name, last name, company, domain name, it'll give you their email, phone number, title, etc. We also work inside of the communication areas where you engage. So if I'm sitting here having a LinkedIn conversation with Theo, I can basically bring up Theo's record and see the history of interactions that he and I have had on email, calendar, and social, and also do the follow-up and follow-through things that I need to do. And so Some of the other key aspects about Nimble is the fact that it does work inside of other business applications. This is an example of Nimble working inside Salesforce. And if you do work at a company, you can use Nimble as a sales enablement tool to enrich records, but also to be able to prospect wherever you're working. And like I said earlier, you should be prospecting on a daily basis. And so if I'm reading a business article and I want to know who the person is, I could simply highlight the name. Nimble will then automatically go and build a record for that person. And then when I add that record to Nimble, it's automatically added to wherever I want it to be, including any of the business apps that I'm using throughout the system. And so I use Nimble on a regular basis. Whenever I'm connecting, I like to Nimble people to determine if they are somebody that I might even want to connect with. So if Adam's reaching out to connect on, say, Facebook, I could easily bring up the Nimble widget and to be able to go in and see those things. And so with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to jump into the Q&A to make sure we cover any key questions. Michaela, let's see, do I have the Q&A document up? Let me just go ahead and see where that is. While you're sharing that, there it is right there. One of the questions that was asked earlier is Nimble hard to begin with? Well, Nimble's actually been ranked #1 in ROI satisfaction and ease of use for many, many years. And I think that's because Nimble automatically builds itself, and it's really simple and straightforward to use and set up and then work where you work. So it's pretty straightforward to do that. What are the benefits of connecting contacts' LinkedIn profiles to Nimble? The benefit of connecting the contacts' LinkedIn profiles to Nimble, I think what you're asking is if I go and add a record, so let's say I'm sitting here and I want to know who Tony Abachi is, Nimble will automatically build a record for Tony, and then if I am in Tony's record and I want to know more about him, I could easily click out to the profile and to be able to see that there. So I hope that helps. Can user settings be changed so only certain users can be allowed to edit the contacts? That's coming in Nimble 5.0 with privacy. Look for that in the next few months. How do I send a tracked email via Outlook? So today, if you're in Outlook and you want to send a tracked email, you can do that from within Nimble today, but from within Outlook, we're adding that in a future release as well. So you can send tracked emails from within Nimble, but if you want to send, and they're templated and they're trackable, but if you want to send that within Outlook today, we have not gotten that done yet. Is there a way for all users in the team to see a specific user's tracked emails without sharing the entire inbox with the team? Yes, you just go into settings and set your emails as private. And then when you're looking at emails for a contact, then what you can do is you can go ahead and set a particular thread public or private by just changing the security like that. How can CRM be useful for a smaller business team that offers services and does not have sales? Well, I really believe that service is the new sales, and that team relationship management is critical to providing services. And the fact that Nimble gives you a platform that gives you and the team a contact record, that gives you a consistent history and background for every engagement that you and the team have had, can help you provide service like American Express does. I've completed the setup, and when I try to view contacts, I have difficulties getting any social information, interest as described in the connected feeds. So the thing is that some people do have social backgrounds, some people don't. If you have specific questions, reach out to us at care@nimble.com, and we will go ahead and do a one-on-one conversation where we can walk you through that. Can you create automated workflows for communications? So today, when you build these group messages, the way that you do that is you build a segment. And so you could build a segment through a number of different ways. But let's say I just go ahead and build that segment and I want to send that group message right here. When you build that group segment, then what happens is after you send the group, what you can do is you can see who opened it, who clicked it, who didn't read it, and then be able to do a next step with the people that didn't open it. And so that's sort of a manual version of automated workflows. You can send a email, but then once you have sent it, for the people that didn't read it, you could then send them a follow-up email. We're going to automate that process with tracking that and putting an automation so you could do a multi-step email, as well as we're going to be integrating Microsoft Flow, which will help you to create workflow and automation as well. And I guess the last thing was just a statement by Ryan Ellison saying, this is fantastic. As a small company starting a PR business, I loved hearing Brooke's story. So with that, what I'd like to do is go ahead and wrap us up. And so we have some special offers for those of you that aren't using Nimble today. Normally it's a 2-week trial. If you go to nimble.com offers/webinar 30, you'll get a 30-day free trial. And if you decide to convert into a paid customer, use the code John40 for 40% off your first 3 months. And we also have a free offer from Brooke at bsquared.media. Swipe file, you can go ahead and get her top social media processes. And with that, Mireille, I'd like to thank you and Brooke for participating in this webinar. Feel free to reach out to any of us to help us connect with you, to learn more about you and how we might be able to help you grow. And so I look forward to learning more about all of you. You want to connect with me, feel free to connect with me on whatever channel's effective for you, or just email me. I'm jon@nimble.com. And with that, I'd like to thank every single person that took the time today to spend it with us. I hope it was powerful and beneficial to you. And good luck and have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.